messing around.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our June monthly meeting. We don't have anyone that is going to be calling in, so thanks to our executive assistants, we have everyone here. I do want to remind everyone, just for courtesy, if y'all can mute your cell phones. I didn't before I got here and caused the problem. So anyway, if I could ask everyone to stand for a time of reflection, and then we will have a moment of reflection. Thank you. One.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone will look. Need an adoption of the agenda. Ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. The agenda is adopted. Safety briefing. Make sure that we're all on the same page. Daryl Holderfield and Dan Mersha. Did I say that? Pretty close? Close enough. So, welcome. Get us in the right thing so we're safe. Or feel safe. Thank you. Welcome.
In case we have an emergency, we need to evacuate. We'll be using the stairwell to the left of the elevators. Please use the handrails when descending down the elevators. Be aware of any hazards in the room, other people, chairs, cords, garbage cans I can see. The meeting place will be on the corner of Main and Ashley, which is the church parking lot. Melissa has already volunteered to call 911 and security for us. There are fire extinguishers to the left of the elevators as well. Only use those to get out of the building. We will not fight any fires with those. Excuse me. Turn all your cell phones off, please. And the restrooms are located out the door to the right down the hall. I work for Brian Roach, VP and GM, Water and Wastewater Systems. I started my career 25 years ago here at JEA at the Buckman Wastewater Treatment Plant. And I have a total of 31 years in the water and wastewater utility business. Currently, my group is the Water and Wastewater System Control Group. We maintain the SCADA systems for all the water and wastewater treatment and pump stations. And we also have the 24-hour operation at the Ridenhour Water Treatment Plant, which monitors the 1,300 pump stations. And we also operate the water system, reclaim system, and we monitor those wastewater plants that are not 24-hour operated. In the last 4 years, we have. My group has also been responsible for documenting and implementing our enterprise asset management initiative for water and wastewater systems here at JEA, and that's been a exciting job as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And I'd like to introduce Dan Mishra.
Thank you, Darren. This is my first opportunity to be in front of the board. Thank you so much. Good morning, board members and Paul McRoy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am, unlike Daryl, who has been here 25 years, I may just boast for my 5 months at JEA, and which has been very exciting. The challenges and the experience and have been very rewarding. I'm in the role of Director of CIP Compliance, and CIP stands for Critical Infrastructure Protection. As you may all know, JEA has certain assets which are considered as critical assets, and they are supposed to maintain certain regulatory requirements. And my job is to ensure that JEA's risks are addressed and those assets are maintained as per all the regulatory requirements and all the other needs, operating needs. These are primarily in the same nature with the SCADA and control systems assets. Going forward, we may have a bigger expansion because of the newer rules, which expands the SIP scope to almost 100% of our assets, which will be in 2 years, and that will be part of my challenge as well. Prior to this, I worked with many companies. One of them was FRCC just before coming, which is the regulator under the FERC for all the electric companies, and that is how I was associated with JEA. And hence my statement that 5 months, but seems like I've been part of this family for very long. I started with 2009, started auditing. Before that, had some experience with Consumer Synergy, which is in Michigan, and IBM, RIS, a couple of other companies. I'm still working on moving from Tampa. I drive back and forth. That's because my son is Krish, who's 17, he has signed up for U.S. Marine Corps, and he'll be joining the boot camp very soon, and we are just waiting for him to just move out so that we can move in over here. I do have a residence over here, so I am part of Jacksonville. And my daughter, Veronica, she has taken over the control of the house. She thinks now that everything which was owned by my son is part of her heritage.
She's inherited it.
My wife Jay, she is a homemaker, and we've been married for 19 years, and we're looking forward to moving into Jacksonville. We have been here many a times, and we enjoy this city. And thanks again for the opportunity today's and being part of JEA's family.
Thank you. Welcome, Chair.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Daniel, impressive interview. I was just curious, I'm reading one line here, where your free time, you prefer to teach high school students and mentor them with cybersecurity knowledge. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. That's the skill that I have learned over the years. And I like to teach kids because I believe that the younger generation, which is in middle school to high school, they need some guidance on cyber skills. It's like they go in this big world and they think that there is nobody watching. They can do all kind of things and nothing to worry about. They get all these features and they want to use it. One of the tasks that I have taken, and I work with principals and school boards, that I teach for free, I provide them mentoring lessons, try and tell them what they can do and how that will leave a footprint for lifelong, and what they should not do. I have around a 60-page presentation. It takes around 2 hours, and I do training, and I can surprise them with simple tricks of how to fool and how to hack a computer, because that's what gets them going. Once you show them
That's what they wanna know.
how easy was it to,
Yes.
with the tool, to crack the password, they realize, oh, it's that easy. And then the trust model, the other things of relationship, who to trust, who not to trust on the internet, the core family model, that, at the end of the day, you should speak to your family if you're in trouble. That's one place you will be safe. Not with your friends, not with everybody, but family, always. You'll be safe. So don't trust someone on the internet just because he accepted you as a friend and he's been your friend since you opened a Facebook account. But your family will always be. So go and explain if something unique is happening. Those are the kind of engagements that we have been trying to make. I've already contacted, and if I can get more help, I can succeed better. I've not had much of success yet, but I have already contacted Jacksonville Charters, Bay Meadows Charter School. Teresa Brown, I believe, is the principal over there. And I will be looking forward to all kind of engagements, and if I can get more opportunity, I'll work. I also teach at universities ad hoc. Some of my friends are lecturers, and when they just want some break and they want some specialized topics to be discussed, I go and teach them technical.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
And also, please tell your son thank you for his service. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's looking forward to it. He says it's his calling.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for what he's doing. Great. Under presentations, Jane Upton, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your great emails keeping us posted. You do a fantastic job. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Mr. Chair, board members, Mr. McElroy, JEA staff, and guests. My name is Jane Upton, and I am the Director of Communications and Community Outreach. I've been with JEA for 16 years, and I'm responsible for all customer communication, and that includes the website, social media, media relations, the bill insert that you have there in front of you, and a whole host of other things. I'm also responsible for conservation education and community outreach, for customer research, for employee volunteer programs, and for employee communications. When I'm not at JEA, my passions are food and travel. The last big trip I took was to Africa in 2010, and my husband and I are now contemplating what our next big adventure is. But I don't think it's going to be for a while because we have so much going on here at JEA that I think I'm going to be pretty busy for the next many months. I love my job. I love serving the citizens of Jacksonville, and I really like helping customers use our products and services more efficiently. And that's really what I'm here to talk to you about today. The U.S. Green Building Council is a nonprofit organization that's a national organization, and it's committed to prosperous and sustainable initiatives around the United States. There is a local Northeast chapter. They have an annual awards program where they award buildings, programs, and individuals who demonstrate leadership in improving efficiency and reducing impacts on the environment. The fourth annual awards ceremony was about a month ago, and JEA received 2 awards at that presentation. The first award was the Green Hero Award, and that award is intended to recognize members of the community who have made a significant impact on sustainability in Northeast Florida. Among the recipients were Bruce Dueck. Bruce, you stand. He is the manager of customer conservation and efficiency programs here at JEA. Bruce has been with JEA for 37 years. This is his 37th year. And sadly for me, and for all of us, he's going to be retiring in September. But over the years, I cannot tell you the number of programs that he has innovated to help our customers. He is always, first and foremost, a champion of our customers and doing what's right for the community and for sustainability. So I'd like you to ask you to join me in congratulating Bruce. The second award that JEA received was the Green Initiative Award. This award recognizes activities, initiatives, programs, and concepts that have made a significant impact on sustainability in North Florida. The recipient of this award was the JEA Home Energy Evaluation Backpack. Through this program, Dave Reed has created this backpack, which is a do-it-yourself home energy evaluation kit. And we partner with the public library so that people can check these out and take them home and do this audit for themselves. There's a whole manual in there, there are tools, and somebody said to me, well, gosh, don't you worry about people, stealing stuff? And I said, it's the library. People get that you borrow stuff and you take it back. And so we've had very, very minimal problem of losing anything. A couple things are broken, but other than that, no problem at all. We even had a Girl Scout troop who took one of these packs and did a YouTube video using this. David is a conservation and efficiency specialist, and he also happens to work for Bruce Dueck. And he's been with JEA for 7 years, and he said that he really started his green journey when he came to JEA. He's an electrical engineer, MBA, and he was in the nuclear Navy before he came to JEA. But David has done an incredible job, and I just wanted to recognize him for his part in creating this wonderful product that helps our customers. Now, we actually do have something to give you and show you.
Doesn't David get applause?
To make this even more interesting, this is, the award itself is made of recycled lumber from a Haverjacks deconstruction, you didn't know that, as well as some lumber that they determined originally was milled in Jacksonville but used in a skating rink somewhere else. So not only are we talking about sustainability here, but we also have a bit of Jacksonville history.
That's beautiful.
It's kind of heavy.
That's a great idea.
Nice.
The next item, because I think I'm the next one on the agenda, is really near and dear to my heart. Last week, 178 JEA employees went out to help Haverjacks with their 25th anniversary Blitz build, where they were building 25 homes in 7 days. And rather than have me tell you about it, I have a little video that tells the story much better than I ever could.
For the past 15 years, JEA has provided employee volunteers annually to help Haverjacks build homes for our customers.
I'm kind of overwhelmed, so I do apologize if I get a little emotional. This is my first time purchasing a home. I'm just so excited.
To commemorate Haverjacks' 25th anniversary of serving our community and building almost 2,000 affordable homes for Jacksonville families, Haverjacks committed to building 25 houses in 7 days. It asked JEA to play a special part in the celebration. Because of JEA's commitment to safety and our long-standing track record of quality volunteers, Haverjacks asked us to provide crew leaders for each of the 25 homes. When the opportunity was presented, employees from across the organization were quick to step forward.
JEA in particular provided us with our volunteer leadership all week long, and was a tremendous gift from them because it required them to go through a couple days of training, first aid, CPR.
The crew leaders supervised installation of siding and laying of sod for all 25 homes. In addition, more than 100 JEA employees volunteered to work on some aspect of the build, even our CEO. And everyone showed up, even in the rain when Tropical Storm Andrea was knocking at our door.
Many of you have come out to build a house, but during the week, we have all learned the importance of the house in building a community.
It was truly a great experience for all the volunteers, but the best part was seeing the faces of the new homeowners and hearing what a difference this has made in their lives.
Never thought it would happen, but it did. Things happen. Never say never. I thank God for the people that volunteered.
Volunteering with Haverjacks is just one of the ways employees from the JEA family are working to build a better community.
Here, here.
Nice.
With us today, we also have the pleasure of having Greg Manavino, the president of Manavino and Company, and he's the board chair for Haverjacks, as well as Mary Kay O'Rourke, and she's the president and CEO of Haverjacks.
Wow, what a great week. It was great to see Paul out there leading the troops, and David was out there working on the same house that I was working on one day. But to build 25 houses in a week, it really takes a lot of things coming together. It takes an incredible plan that God has, and JEA played just a critical role in this, and we never could thank y'all enough for providing the leadership as well as the volunteers, and for everything that JEA does for us over the years, including letting us have Jane on the board for, I don't know how many years now, way more than most folks. So we're just very appreciative of everything that y'all did for us, and we're very appreciative of the end result, which is 25 new homes for 25 deserving families. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just want to echo what Greg just said. we are very appreciative and thankful to have Jane on our board. She's a wonderful resource to us, and she really made this happen by getting those 178 people out, 55 team leaders who came out for 4 days and led groups, and then volunteers who also worked on the site. So we're very appreciative. When I'm coming up the elevator, I see, volunteer commitment, days of caring. JEA has definitely showed that they do care. We share the same customers, we work in the same community, and I'm very appreciative of the work. And then, of course, with CEO Paul McElroy coming out, he definitely showed leadership and caring to his team, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I just want to end by reading a very short quote from one of our employees about their experience. Despite the heat and the rain and the physical labor, which is not part of my routine, I truly enjoyed my experience as a volunteer to the Habijax project. We not only made a contribution to someone's dream, but made new friends, got closer to old ones, and had fun in the process. I am blessed and thankful for being a part of Habijax and that JEA provided me this opportunity to give back.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for all of those who contributed. And Mr. CEO, it's great. Ed Denton, our Director of Emergency Preparedness, going to kind of give us an update where we are and that we're safe. Everything's, and you're in charge of the weather, right?
End all be all. Good morning, Board. Paul, appreciate the opportunity to come in. Ed Dendo, Director of Emergency Preparedness. Just a few things. I'll give you a quick bio of myself. Talk a little bit about the Blue Sky, Gray Sky organizations. You may hear those terms. And then as well as recent opportunities as far as preparation that JEA has gone through in the last 60 days. A little bit about myself. Prior to '85, I was a commercial diver. And as a commercial diver, I was a diver medical tech, an emergency medical technician, and a firefighter. So I have a little bit of boots on the ground when it comes to emergency management, if you would. That's me, I guess, many, many moons ago without all the gray hair. As far as education, I'm an alumni of FSCJ, Florida Institute of Technology, UNF, and my master's from Florida International University. 85 to present, started out at SGRPP, building SGRPP, going through startup, operations, outages. Worked for the Port Authority for a few years and then rejoined JEA about 17 years ago. And more important, back to the home life, married 28 years to my wife Trish. I've got 2 boys, both Nicholas and Christopher. And Nicholas recently graduated from Bartram Trail High School. He decided he wanted to join the Army Reserves and be a combat medic. So he's getting ready to go to his advanced training, and when he returns from that, he wants to be a nurse anesthetist. And Christopher on the right recently graduated from the Naval Academy. He is now an ensign on the USS Gettysburg, and he's going to be out in the Persian Gulf. And a while back, Mike Hightower actually had the families over to his house, and we had a lot of the leadership from the Naval Academy actually here. And I want to thank you personally for that. It's helped us in our years of transitioning with my son in the Navy.
Go Navy.
Yes.
Moving on, a little bit about managing an incident. We mentioned a blue sky and a gray sky organization. Every company, every corporation has it. We call it a blue sky organization. You have Paul McElroy, the CEO. You have the chiefs underneath, and then it drills down into the various components of the organization. When an incident occurs, for example, a tropical storm is approaching, the organization transition or changes. And the reason for that is it's all about getting through the recovery and recovery of the operations. If you notice the org chart, the fine print is not important, but what's important is on the left-hand side, the red boxes are the operational components of the organization: water, power, IT, and so on. The right side of the organization is all about support of that organization. The logistics, how do you find water, food, lodging, fuel, transportation, those types of things. What about the financial component? And then as well as the planning, which is in the center to plan all that. So JEA has its Incident Command Structure, ICS, and it's all in accordance with the National Incident Management System, or NIMS. JEA has continually transitioned and moved into that direction to, more importantly, maximize our federal reimbursement when And if we ever do get hit, we're actually able to maximize our dollars that the federal government pays back to us. So how do we do it? What activities have we done in preparation for the storm season, which is obviously we're in now? Over the last 60 days, we've had quite a bit of training. Actually, I'm going to start with a more recent. This is actually tomorrow. We've got 160 of our upper and middle level management is going to be out at UNF. We're going to be working on many various workouts, breakout sessions, if you will. We're going to be talking about the FEMA reimbursement. We'll be talking about the blue sky, gray sky, how do we transition as an organization. We'll talk about resource requests. If there's something JEA needs, we're able to get that possibly from the city, state, and federal government, as well as communications to our customers and how they perceive us versus what reality is. And let's get on that one-on-one discussion about how they see us. Next opportunity we had, taking a step farther back, was with the SLT and the Incident Command Team. We met in May, the end of May, and we spent about a half a day actually working through tabletop exercise and decision-making on a higher level, if you would. What happens when we get hit by a catastrophic storm, and now how are we going to recover from that? The city was here as a part of that as well. Previous to that, JEA and the city were working together for a statewide tabletop exercise. Paul McElroy actually went across to the city and was part of the city's leadership executive team. Meanwhile, JEA had its EOC opened up on this side and created that opportunity for communications back and forth between the two organizations. Leading up to that, we actually had a damage assessment where we bring in 60 of JEA's engineers and specialists to talk through and work through. So when a storm does pull through, our engineers are able to actually go out and assess the situation, develop reporting, and then collecting that data for later on developing the reports for FEMA for that reimbursement component. It's very important. Before that, notice a very common theme, a lot of training, a lot of preparation here. Port Unified Command Exercise. And this one, I call it, was really alphabet soup. We had the United States Coast Guard, Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service, FDLE, JSO, JFRD, JPA, JEA, and so on. But we met together here at JEA and worked through an all-day session on the incident was out in the river, up in the line with our power plants out on the north side with port operations. Now, how are we all going to work together to resume port operations in power plant generation, power generation? And one more before that, we had a Emergency Preparedness Planning Council. And this is where the actual city and the mayor and his leadership came over to JEA, and we spent a half a day with Paul and others up on the 19th floor and talked about what happens if a storm hits Jacksonville, and we've got a significant recovery period where we've got to go ahead and rebuild the entire city of Jacksonville. What does that look like? So in support of that, over the last 3 months also, we spent a lot of time in various committees, councils, and and with that, in the Incident Command Structure, the ICS, we have an overall arching Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, or CEMP. That umbrella is comprised of many functional components as well of FRPs. And so each part of the organizations has their various component of supporting the overall recovery effort. And so in summary, JEA is continuing preparing by having a solid alignment with the City of Jacksonville's Emergency Operations Center, with our Emergency Operations Center, as well as our working components in our Incident Command Structure. We're ready to respond with contracts, crews, materials, support that are in place. For example, JEA has over 500 items in their inventory that they continually monitor and track. As we approach the hurricane season, they increase their inventory. Our storm season peak is in the months of August and September, and we start peaking our inventory here at the very first part of July. Third component is recovery through our policies, procedures, and the structure that's in place as we transition from our blue sky to our gray sky opportunity. We're positioned to rapidly respond and put ourselves in a better position to come out of the recovery and get back to our blue sky operations. We don't want to stay in that recovery position for a long period of time. The quicker we can minimize that, the better off the community and JEA as a whole will be. And while mitigating any future impacts and maximizing, again, notice the common thread, that federal reimbursement. If it is a significant event, a significant storm, we want to be able to go back to the feds and say, here's all our documentation, and we're able to actually get that reimbursement recovery. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if there are any questions.
Ed, thank you. And also congratulations to your son. As you know, Wyman and Wayne Young are also graduates of the Naval Academy, so there's a great camaraderie here, so thank you for your service. Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. I know I lose someone out, but congratulations.
John is my boss, yeah.
Yeah, that's don't forget him. One of the things that came up, seriously, Ed, is that, as a matter of fact, as Wyman sort of raised the issue this morning at one of our meetings about, making sure that our community knows that. And your presentation, again, this may be for a Jane thing, but, Jane, you all have done an incredible job of reaching out to the cable networks. There may be an opportunity for us since customer-centric is one of our major goals this year, is this presentation, if we could work something out with one of the cable companies and make sure that during this time, people know that, for those of us in politics, they got to hear something 8 times before they hear it.
Yes, sir.
Even though we talked about this morning, people still shouldn't go to the beach, but every time we have a storm, you're always looking at all these folks that are out there surfing and they haven't got a clue. I think we just need to keep reinforcing that storm comes up, these are the things you need to be thinking about doing so we can get ready. But you guys do a fantastic job. Great presentation.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And to that point, next month's mailer actually has an emergency preparedness. Here's what JEA is doing. That actually is in our billing stuffer, so.
Very
we'll
good.
take it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Do we have comments from the public? Any comments? None? Well, I see we waited forward from our council liaison, Past President Stephen Jost. Glad to see you, sir. Welcome. Anything you'd like to share with us? We're glad to have you here.
A few small items. At the what meeting was that at where all the lead questions came up? Wayne's your liaison to us.
Finance Committee 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we're presenting it again.
And so anyways, there are a few questions on some changing out the lights from what we have to lead, and I'm here to report Wayne's on top of it. Has done some research and is coming back to the council with some answers. Is that today at the finance? So we'll be leaving momentarily. And then what was the other thing with Warren Jones?
That was the same issue.
That's the same issue?
Out of the lights being turned off and turned back on at the request of the city. So he wants to take it another step further to investigate changing out the lights for current lights.
So that's really all we got going on over at City Council that involves you. And then I also saw in the last meeting, we're going to refinance some of the debt here. And so that should come to the Finance Committee in August sometime. And usually that's, anytime we save money, we usually vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you. Appreciate it. You all have before your consent agenda, and these are items.
Oh, I want to tell you.
Yes, sir.
Edwin and I grew up on the same street. He's my childhood friend.
Couldn't do any better than this, so I'm entering. Full-time job, Ed. Consent agenda, these are items that require no explanation, discussion, and these are things that we've talked about. We need a single motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great, get that. Strategic discussions, we have a water and sewer bond resolution amendments relating to investment and policies and capacity changes. Jenny? Welcome.
Good morning,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, board members, Mr. McElroy.
Where are we now?
I'm Jenny Alvarado, JEA's treasurer.
B1.
B1, okay.
At Section 3B1. Like Daniel Mishra, who spoke earlier today, I've been at JEA for less than a year, and I also have a son who just graduated from high school and a daughter standing by to take over his room and possessions as soon as he heads off for college. I'm pleased to bring 2 Treasury-related items for your consideration and action this morning. The first agenda item is a resolution amending our water and sewer system bond resolutions. We discussed this item during the May F&A Committee meeting and are now bringing it before the board for approval. This resolution addresses 3 primary items. The first item that this resolution addresses is to amend the definition of eligible investments to include securities as permitted by Florida law. This new definition of eligible investments is consistent with the electric system and district energy system resolutions. The second item that this resolution addresses is that it amends the provisions related to the use of credit instruments, such as sureties, to fund the debt service reserve fund in lieu of cash. The amendment changes the credit rating requirement for eligible surety policies from AAA to AA minus, AA3. JEA has a surety policy from Berkshire Hathaway, who is currently rated AA plus, AA1, in the amount of $33 million. Upon the amendments becoming effective, if Berkshire's ratings remain above the proposed threshold, the change would allow for the release of $33 million from the water and sewer system debt service reserve account. Please note that greater than 50% of the affected bondholders would need to approve the amendment before it becomes effective, and this process can take several years. The third item that this resolution addresses is a minor cleanup of language that was a holdover since before JEA took over the water and sewer system. JEA proposes to clarify and correct the definition of the term capacity charges to reflect that such charges are now imposed by JEA rather than pursuant to City Council ordinances. Any questions on?
Yes.
Hi, Jenny. On the release, if the amendment is approved on the cash, is that actual cash money?
It is actual cash that would be released.
Okay.
I believe we'd have to thoroughly vet this, but at this point, I believe part of it could go back into the revenue fund.
Okay.
I also believe it could be used to pay down debt.
Okay.
Nice nerve here that you always hit. If you- anything that says we pay down debt, you'll get a positive response from the board.
Thank you.
I think we need a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Jenny, I
you.
think you have one more.
I do.
Excuse me,
Oh,
and I abstain.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
abstain.
Have the record.
Oh, okay, well, I abstained on both of them then.
For the record, yes, board member Lisa Weatherby wants to state that she's declared a conflict, so just for the record. Thank
On
you,
the next
Lisa,
one.
appreciate that.
Our
Jen.
next agenda item for today is related to compliance with the Dodd-Frank Act regulations. The Dodd-Frank Act requires changes to our hedging documents before we can amend, terminate, transfer, or novate our existing swaps, or execute new swap transactions. In addition, under the Dodd-Frank Act, JEA is required to have a swap advisor called a qualified independent representative in order to engage in any of those swap activities. JEA has interest rate hedging master agreements called ISDAs in place today with various counterparties. The International Swaps and Derivatives Association has created a series of documents known as the ISDA Dodd-Frank Protocols to assist in the amendment process. The attached resolution provides authority to execute these documents as well as qualified independent representative agreements and other related documents in order that JEA may comply with the Dodd-Frank Act. Any questions on this?
Questions, board members? Motion?
I'd move approval of this as well, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Lisa did abstain.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yes, she declared that at the beginning.
I was ahead of the curve.
Yes.
For once.
Number 3, public service, Florida Public Utilities Base Rate Adjustment. Melissa?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Florida Public Utilities is JEA's only wholesale customer. They serve Fernandina and parts of Amelia Island up to the north. And as part of our contract with FPU, we revisit and adjust their rates as needed every 2 years. Their last rate adjustment was in 2011, so we're back here in 2013 to look at another rate adjustment for them that would become effective on October 1st of this year. We reviewed the cost of service with our rate consultants, Black & Veatch. The costs are allocated to FPU based on their actual peak demand. So 2 years ago, their peak demand was 82 megawatts. As of last year, their peak demand has grown to 96. And because of that 17% increase, there is an increase in the costs that are allocated to FPU. Although their peak has increased 17%, the increase in cost allocation is only 2.4%. And that's the proposed increase in the rate to FPU. The effective increase in dollars per megawatt hour is about $2.04. That would be the change there, and that would be effective for the next 2 years under their contract. The new rates are also designed so that we collect slightly more in the demand charge than we had historically, to give us a little more certainty around the revenues from FPU, given some of the changes in their demand structure. Are there any questions about that rate change?
Could you restate the difference between the 17% increase and what we're, or if you don't mind?
Yes, yeah, their peak grew from 82 to 96, which is a 17% increase.
Right.
Thanks for whoever's fixing my pages there. The cost allocation to them didn't grow that much, though. The peak occurred during a summer month in 2012. And so we allocate based on that peak, but the cost allocation methodology to them results in an effective increase in their rate of just over 2%.
Great.
What is the other energy portion that's shown on the table? In the material table.
Is that the second column?
Yeah.
Their rate is split into a demand charge and an energy charge. So one is based on, it's basically a fixed charge that's assessed to them. The other one is an assessment on their usage, their actual megawatt hours. So the first column there is the fixed portion of their charge, and the second column is the one that's variable and depends on their consumption.
Okay.
So it's the fixed charge that's changed?
It is in the table, but there's a listing of the current rates and then the proposed new rates. So the fixed charge has increased from $11.38 to $14.31. Right. The other energy charge has actually decreased from $15.81 to $11. And that reflects the difference in allocation methodology that we talked about.
A question was, how is the proposed rate increase received by FPU? And secondly, do we expect any press coverage that we should be aware of coming forward as it goes out to the public? It's passed on.
The first question in terms of how the rate increase is received, I don't think it's ever good news when you go and tell somebody that you're increasing rates. However, they agree with the growth in their peak demand, and they've got some initiatives on island working on being able to manage that peak better so that we can revisit that in 2 years and hopefully go the other direction based on our cost of service allocation. In terms of press coverage, I'm not sure. I guess I'll await the Times Union to see whether there's press that's on that.
Okay, fair enough.
Good question. Other questions? A motion to approve the new rate schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Number 4, let's be here. Our 14 budget.
We have allocated 15 minutes for this item on the agenda, but there's not a specific presentation prepared for it. It's an allocation for discussion time among the board members before the budget is approved. There have been a few minor changes since the version that you saw last month, and those relate to truing up some of the budget items that are dependent on our actual numbers coming in. So we do have one more month of actuals that's put into the budget before it's fixed for the next year. And that's really the key change since the last time that you've seen the draft budget. So the allocation of time that's here is meant for discussion.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that, first of all, the Finance and Audit Committee spent an enormous amount of time in May going through this budget, both operating and capital, and we also had some discussion at the June meeting. Unless there's some major changes, I have a motion that we approve the budget.
Any other questions? There's a motion by Finance Chairman Townsend.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Great.
Thank you. And this is Melissa's first budget as CFO, by the way.
Congratulations.
Unanimous. That's very good.
Pass the board.
Great.
Much more efficient than the last person.
Well, I didn't want to say that.
I didn't even go there.
We're not
You
going
notice
there.
that? I took the high road. He's also close by. I didn't want to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now we've got to get through city council.
Yep. Good luck there.
You should have grabbed Mr. Joseph before he left.
Yes,
Let's
yeah,
get one vote out of that.
exactly.
Thank you. Number 5, bi-monthly financials. Great. That will be 3B5.
Great.
Thank you.
I won't take up the 15 minutes that we just got back on the last one. There we go. Okay. In terms of the picture for this year, forecasted metrics at year end for the electric system include 2.5 times debt service coverage, 112 days of cash, and 77% debt to asset ratio. I'll note that days of cash is above our current board policy. It's actually below our AA rated peers. And we're going to revisit that policy at the August Finance and Audit Committee meeting. For water and sewer system, 2.3 times projected debt service coverage, 128 days of cash, and debt to asset ratio of 59%. I think I hear cheering in the background as we get below 60%. That's a big milestone for JEA. This chart provides a picture of our sales for the year. This is the format that's typically been presented. I'm going to flip to a new page that's prepared, which presents this information graphically and shows a picture of what we've got going on. And I'll talk from this page. This chart shows fiscal years 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, 13 to date, stacked side by side. So you can really get a picture of, on a cumulative basis by month, how our sales are looking year over year. 2012 was a tough year in terms of sales for the electric system. We had some very mild weather in 2012. And what's interesting about what's going on this year is if you look at May, which is the last month of actuals in this chart that's shown, I'm used to having a laser pointer, so don't mind me pointing my hands over here. If you look at May, which is the last month that we have actuals for, May is actually lower in sales than fiscal year 12 was. So not a great year from a sales perspective. The shaded bars that are on the right-hand side in June through September are projections for where we're going to go for the rest of the year. Those projections are 7% over our fiscal year 12 actuals. So it's a little bit of a bump there, but year to date, we're actually coming in less than fiscal year 12. We are seeing growth in the number of accounts. We've got almost a 1% growth in number of accounts since fiscal year 12. Sales are up in residential and interruptible classes, but not enough to offset how much they're down in our commercial and industrial and wholesale classes of customers. May degree days, to give you a picture of what happened in the month of May, we're more than 30% below fiscal year 2012. So it was a very, very mild month of May. In terms of the financial picture, our forecasted sales are 2.3% above our fiscal year 12 actuals, but our forecast is now 5.3% below our budget. So it's creating a gap in base revenue of about $48 million. That gap in base revenue is offset right now by a projected decrease in O&M expenses below budget. We're expecting to come in about $19 million below budget on O&M. And then in terms of filling that $48 million gap, we've also got $13 million in debt-related savings that we're expecting to realize this year, $10 million lower capital fund deposits, and $6 million lower non-fuel purchase power expenses. Our capital expenditures are also, at this point in the year, expected to come in about $20 million below budget. Water and sewer system sales, we've prepared a similar chart, so I'm going to flip past this one and look at this bar chart that shows cumulative sales by month and looking at fiscal years 2009 through fiscal year 13. For the month of May, this picture is in some ways even more stark than the electric system sales picture. Our sales are down significantly. Our actual year-over-year sales through May are down about 8.6% year-over-year. That's primarily due to irrigation. And what's interesting about this number is that if you just look at total rainfall between fiscal year 12 and this fiscal year, the rainfall totals are pretty similar. What's going on, though, or what that doesn't capture is the pattern of rainfall. Last year was actually very dry through the first half of May, so we had a lot of irrigation that came on in fiscal year 12, and then it just rained like crazy in the last half of May with that tropical storm that we had come through. This year, precipitation has been very consistent through the first 5 months of the year, and so we're seeing irrigation down quite a bit in the water and sewer system. And then projections through the remainder of the year reflect some more normal weather patterns. On the financial side, although our water sales are 5% below budget and sewer sales are about 0.2% below budget, our revenues are really right on budget. And what's driving that is our lower sales are offset by two things. One is a volume-based rate adjustment, which became effective on October 1st. And the other is higher than expected capacity fees. So we have some more development than was built into our budget going on, which is good news for the water and sewer system. O&M is projected to be $4 million less than budget, and capital expenditures are projected to be about $17 million less than budget. On the debt side, we do have some developments with respect to our debt portfolio, which you'll see reflected in next month's report. We did fix out the district energy system debt. Our all-in interest rate on that is just under 4%, and that'll be probably the biggest change between this month and next month on this report. We also have two refundings that are coming up in the water and sewer system and in the electric system over the coming summer months, which, as long as the market hangs in there, knock on wood, will help to further reduce some of our debt costs in our portfolio. On the interest rate side, this will be another chart that'll look pretty different next month. That bottom line on here, the black line, is the district energy system interest rate, and that's going to pop up to a fixed interest rate next month. The district energy system, though, is small enough that it's not going to materially change our overall weighted average cost of debt in the system, which right now is about 3.9%, which is below our budget number of 4.3%. In terms of the variable rate risk analysis, we will see next month a reduction in our exposure to State Street. They were the credit provider on the variable rate bonds in the district energy system, and so that will come off of this list. And we are continuing to reduce risk in this portfolio, and we're doing that by fixing some additional variable rate debt, which will take off the liquidity facilities that are backing that variable rate debt. As Jenny mentioned, we're executing ISDAs with some new swap counterparties to provide for some counterparty diversification. If something were to happen to one of our existing swap providers, we would then have the ability to assign that exposure to a new counterparty under these new documents. We're expanding our line of credit to further improve our liquidity position from $200 million to $300 million, and we'll talk about that at the August Finance and Audit Committee meeting. And then continuing to monitor our credit counterparties here as market developments come up with respect to those counterparties. The next page provides us a summary of our 10-year bond ratings, and on this page, the arrows on the page indicate changes in our credit ratings over time. So the red arrows pointing down are a reduction in the credit ratings, and the green ones pointing up are an improvement in the credit ratings. What's not captured on this page is the credit ratings that were assigned just a couple of weeks ago to the district energy system. So that was a newly rated credit, and kudos to the Treasury team for their success in those credit ratings. We were assigned a AA3 from Moody's, AA- from Standard & Poor's, and AA from Fitch.
Very good.
And last, this is a picture of our investments portfolio. Yields are up year over year significantly. Just at the 10-year point, U.S. Treasury yields are up about 57 basis points from a year ago. And we've seen the bulk of that movement over the past month. It's been an interesting month in the bond market. to say the least. Our overall portfolio continues to hover just over 50 basis points in yield, although we do have some purchases on the asset side that'll be reflected in next month's report, which will help bump up that yield a bit for next month. Any questions?
Questions? Board?
I just had a question back on the key financial metrics for the water sewer system. It says the operating cash balance at year-end is forecasted to be 15 days. Is that correct?
That is correct. We do have days of cash on hand that are included in the liquidity position that includes certain reserves in the water and sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
The operating reserve in that system has typically run pretty thin. And it's there are ways we can bridge that if we get to where it gets inside of 15 days, but it's a pretty thin margin in terms of the water and sewer system. It's part of the reason we've got some working capital that we'd like to put in there in our budget.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions?
Melissa,
Yes.
on our sales of electricity to our commercial and industrial customers, do you have a handle why we're down almost 4%? I mean, are these particular customers, are we aware that their business is off, or they're just finding other sources of electricity? Do we have a sense of why that's happening?
I think that's an excellent question. I'd want to put some thought into how I answer it. So unless somebody wants to jump in and provide commentary on it, if I could defer on that question and get back to you at the next time we get to.
And also the interruptible column is quite a big decrease as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get a handle on, it seems like when we look at the sales, it's been in a decline for about 4 years now.
Yes.
Brian, you have something to say?
I understand we went through a recession. We're starting to come out of it, but the sales do not seem to be picking up.
Going to interrupt was up. The interruptible class was about 30 large industrial customers, $70 million of revenue. And we put about a year ago with the incremental economic development program that helped that a little bit. So it's the one class that has increased interruptible. Right, Paul?
Yes. Okay. So this is a class that is.
They're the interrupters, the largest manufacturers in town.
Okay. All right.
Anheuser-Busch's of the world, the big, large manufacturers.
Okay.
There are several manufacturers that are not interruptible, but most large manufacturers are interruptible.
Okay. Do we attribute most of the decline in electrical sales to weather, or is it the recession?
Both.
My guess is it's much more heavily weighted toward weather than it is toward. Yes, yeah, using.
Or is it the economics on the case, on the part of the consumer not having the excess? I mean, just being more conscious.
Using this year as an example, we basically had no winter this year. Right. And so no one was turning on their heaters to actually consume the electricity that's required to heat their home during a significant cold snap. We had a couple of times where we did get some temperatures that dipped down, but from a load perspective, it's really the second or third day of very cold weather that starts to really have a meaningful impact on sales, and we just never got to the third day. It seemed like we always bounced back up when that happened. Now, I think there may be some conservation that's going on in connection with that, but the bulk of the sales differential is weather-related.
No, I was just going to say conservation. Obviously, Jane and her group and others have done a fantastic job of that, and keep it up.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
I really believe there's a conservation thing.
Yeah, also, if you look back at the chart, unit sales, fiscal year 2010, if you remember, that was a particularly cold winter. We had like 29 consecutive days with the temperature dropped below freezing, which was a record, right? And it also had a record sales, so the correlation is definitely there.
So we really, on one hand is, if Jane does her job, we see this kind of report, so it's, competing priorities, but I think at the end of the day, I think, conservation is the way to go. You can't get it back.
Yeah.
When we do it.
Hopefully it'll be offset by economic development in the
That's
area.
right. Yeah, yes, we're doing that. Thank you. Any other questions, Melissa?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not aware, but is there any other new business for the group? Old business. Any from only old business? Committee reports, none, but we'll hear from finance next month. Mr. Chairman?
Month after.
Month after that. Managing Director, CEO report.
Just quickly to summarize, Mr. Chairman, we talked a lot about how prepared JEA and the city is relative to storm recovery, but we also are messaging out the responsibility of the individuals, both in terms of our employees and the population at large. Having a storm plan for your own personal home and family, pets, friends, and others is very, very important for us to be successful should we incur a storm. I would also, from the board's perspective, point out that should we be hit with, we're prepared to deal with that, but recognize when JEA comes back into recovery, after we do the assessment, we'll build back the system from essentially from the power plant out to the customer. So we look in recovery, trying to get the most customers back in initially, and then so we'll have some prolonged outages on these long ends of the distribution. But the strategy is to go ahead and get the plants, get the transmission grid, and then get the larger areas of distribution back in sort of that order. That's the priority we work in. Again, just on behalf of the team and the JEA employees that participated in Habijacks, it is a phenomenal organization. We talked a little bit about the 25 homes in a week for the 25th anniversary, but it's phenomenal to think. Just take a second and think about the impact that that organization has had, and we're proud to support it and participate in. 1,800 homes, 1,800 homes, 1,800 families enjoying a house and a home, and that's just a significant impact, and I was deeply touched by that, and certainly humbled to be part of the JEA team that participated in it. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments from any of our board members? To the JEA family, thank you for another great month, and thank you for what you all do for us every day. It makes being on this board a privilege and an honor. No other business. For the sake of it, that we will be doing a Dutch treat to honor our former chairman, Ashton Hudson, and also to thank Jim Gilmore for their service. So if there's any other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.